What happens when a kid is raised without healthy attachments to their own parents? They don't feel connected. They're not being nurtured or loved in a healthy way. If the child's basic needs aren't being met, then that's called reactive attachment disorder. And let's explore this on today's Ask a Shrink. Healthy child development means that we're loved and feel connected and bonded with and attached to our parents. It's so important. A kid is so defenseless when they're a newborn, when they're an infant, and that dependency continues all the way up through most of childhood, right? They're being cared for by their parents. A 5-year-old can't go out and earn an income and support themselves. They don't jump in the car and go to the grocery store and buy groceries for the week. No, everything, absolutely everything is dependent on the parents or the caregiver. So when there's not a healthy bond there, when the child hasn't attached and the parent hasn't done anything to really help the attachment, they're not nurturing them in a healthy way, they're not giving them the love or attention that they need, very, very problematic. Now, we don't fully understand why some kids raised in this way develop reactive attachment disorder and some do not. It starts very early on. When a baby cries, it's expected that they're going to be attended to. They have to be held and loved. It's important to feel that contact and have the parent look in the child's eyes at that age. It builds the attachment. Now, with that said, as we get a little bit older, if things are shaky this way from the get-go, and they're being raised by a narcissistic parent, an abusive parent, a parent who's emotionally smothering them, then now we've added another layer of helping the reactive attachment disorder prosper and thrive, right? Now, this can start in many ways as well in terms of, let's say, a baby's hospitalized for many months. This can easily happen with foster kids who are moved around a lot. But it also can be much more simple than that. It could be in what appears to be a healthy two-parent family, but could it start from postpartum depression? Could the mother be like, I don't want this kid? Kid feels the energy. Maybe the mother was heavily abused growing up. She doesn't know how to attach or bond with her own child. And maybe as that child gets older, said mother is now in an unhappy marriage, let's pretend. And now because she's not connected to her spouse, now she emotionally smothers the child or abuses the child somehow. You have the perfect storm now. So some of the symptoms that therapists see in this is the child doesn't want to play games, doesn't know how to fit in at home. They don't reach out when you go to pick them up. They just want to be in their own little world, and that's because of what they've been through in their infancy. They don't smile very much. They're sort of sad and a bit listless. And a child raised like this may have some sort of irritability. They're just never settled. They're a bit unhappy most of the time. It's important to remember this is not their fault. This is a result of the parenting. It needs a correct diagnosis if this is happening in somebody's family, because this can actually mimic other disorders, other emotional problems, other physical problems. So a good therapist, a good doctor has to really dissect and unthread what's going on here. If it's not dealt with at some point, the child can turn into an adult who carries that with them their entire life. Their inability to connect in a healthy way with others, to have a loving relationship. They struggle with intimacy, vulnerability, developing good friendships, and so on. The child appears to be very emotionally withdrawn most of the time as they get older and turn into an adult. Now, this can cause them later in life, perhaps, to suffer from what's called disinhibited social behavior. So a good example of that is doing things that seem out of the ordinary. They don't make sense logically. Extended family members may wonder why the child doesn't like to be held by their own mother or father, but a car pulls in the driveway, a complete stranger in the car, and that child runs out and gives them a big hug. So we see how the lack of a healthy attachment early on causes erratic behavior perhaps later on. What's usually happened for sure is they've been neglected on some level. They've grown up in some type of environment where the ability to connect with their caregiver, which in most cases is the parent, has been thwarted. And that's a result of the kind of parenting they've been given. It's important to mention that autism, which mimics this in certain ways, is not related at all to reactive attachment disorder. Children like this that are now adults need a lot of love and TLC. They need help with learning how to bond. They need people around them who are patient and kind to them. It's important to remember you're not going to talk or lecture anybody out of this. You can't force somebody out of this sort of reactive behavior. It's more about being aware, seeing the impact, looking at the root cause if you're able to figure that out, and then hopefully the child will be in some therapy and or support groups where they can begin to work with this as they get older. So this is just a quick little reactive attachment disorder 101 class, so to speak. But it's important to know the root cause and also see what's been piled on top of it in terms of any type of abusive behavior that's been heaped on them as they have gotten even older. So please leave me some comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about r.a.d, reactive attachment disorder. Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.